Hi everyone, welcome to Cancer Healing Journey Talks. Myself Sonali Modi from Community Outreach Team of ZenOnco.io and Love Heals Cancer. We guide cancer patients on adopting an integrative oncology treatment approach. We help them find the balance between medical treatment and complementary treatment approaches. We also help our patients with our team of oncologists, lab experts, nutritionists, and other healthcare professionals so that we can improve the treatment outcome for patients. We also help in connecting patients with other cancer warriors who have gone through this journey to address their queries. We also share inspirational journeys to motivate cancer warriors who are going through this journey currently. So firstly, I would like to introduce you to today's speaker, Miss Yoli. She's a cancer warrior. I'm happy that you're here with us today to share your story. So Yoli, please tell us something about yourself.
Sure. Well, since this is a cancer-related topic, I'll start there. I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer when I was 31 years old. And this November, this month, will be 15 years since my diagnosis. And so I'm really excited to be reaching the 15-year mile mark or the 15-year mark. And but it wasn't easy, as you can imagine. And, I started my battle with chemotherapy. I had 16 weeks. So every other week, I had 8 rounds of chemo. And then I had a bilateral mastectomy. So I got rid of them. Like, easiest decision I've ever made in my life. Get them off. I'll rebuild them later. And then followed by radiation. So 35 rounds of radiation. And then I waited for about 6 months. And then I had a latissimus dorsi flap reconstruction using my back muscle and skin to reconstruct my left breast. And that took about a year to heal, to have multiple surgeries and then heal. I'm also the BRCA gene carriers. I have BRCA1 and my cancer was triple negative. And so it was still recommended for me to have a hysterectomy, a preventative hysterectomy by the time I turned 40, so that I could prevent the cancer from coming back and having ovarian cancer. So it was more of a preventative measure. That was the hardest decision I've ever made because I wanted to be a mom and I didn't have children at the time, still don't have children, but it was a very difficult decision. It was a heartbreaking decision. But here I am 15 years later, healthy as could be. I did a lot of things in between that we can talk about later in the interview, but I truly believe in the ability to not only utilize Western medicine, the medications, the medical advice, everything that the doctors did was to keep the cancer from growing. But there was a lot more that I was able to do to help my body get through the difficulties that a body goes through when you're dealing with chemotherapy radiation, related to hydration, to nutrition, to sleep, to exercise, mental health, all those things, the wonderful things that help the whole person. So we can talk about that as well.
Yeah. So what made you go for the diagnosis and what were the initial symptoms you got?
Sure. So, little backtrack. So my family has been deeply impacted by cancer. My mother was diagnosed in her 30s and passed away at the age of 42 with metastatic breast cancer that spread to her brain. And so cancer has been a part of our vocabulary, our family's history for a very long time. So I'm the youngest of 7 children. So my oldest sister, there's 4 girls. The oldest sister was diagnosed with stage 1. And so there's a lot of talk about, or a lot of awareness related to our risk as the family, as the ladies in our family. And so I was paying attention, but when you're 30 years old and you feel healthy and you're busy with life and working, I wasn't paying close attention like I should have been. I wasn't doing the self-exams regularly. And I was 30. I hadn't even gone for my first mammogram yet. So, but I did now in retrospect, thinking back, I did have a lot of pain that would come and go that it felt like little sharp pains. But I did have a rash. I would get a continual rash in my underarm and very sensitive areas in my underarm. And then when I looked at my breast, even though there's always one that's, lower than the other, your dominant hand, your dominant side will have a little bit more it'll be up a little bit more. It won't be as droopy. But anyway, mine was significantly droopy. Yeah, I could tell that there was something wrong, but I didn't pay that close attention until one day. It was on Thanksgiving Day, actually. I was getting out of the shower. I was drying off with the towel, and I felt such a strong, intense pain that it made me put my hand there to relieve the pain. So I was like, oh, and then I was like, whoa, what is that? And I felt the lump, and that's how I found it. It was my body told me something was wrong by giving me that sharp pain to pay attention.
On a personal note, since I have taken a lot of interviews till now, so often women say that the lump is the major fact that they went to an oncologist. So I often think that what will happen to those women who don't who don't find that lump, so who don't have any physical, means on the outer appearance there is no disturbance. So in such women the cancer has progressed, and often it when they realize that something is wrong with their body, when some symptoms started to showing, then often it's say that the cancer is in stage 4. So like can you share your thoughts on what can be done in such cases?
Sure. Well, mine was stage 3 when I found it, and it was 2 tumors together that created this big lump. And then the breast MRI uncovered another tumor deep inside my breast. And the ultrasound showed that my lymph nodes also had cancer activity. The biggest advice that I could give anybody on this topic is that it's so important to familiarize yourself with the landscape of your breast. What feels normal, what doesn't. You'll be more aware if something is wrong or something starts developing. My sister found a teeny tiny little lump in her underarm area that was cancer, that if she didn't know what her normal breast felt like, she would have never found it. So it's so important just to feel around, be comfortable with feeling around and knowing what's normal for you. There are a lot of lumps and bumps in there that's not cancer. So that just knowing your own body is really important, but also paying attention to the signs that the other signs like fatigue, just the how your body feels, what's normal for you. I was extremely fatigued. I was overworked. I knew that I wasn't taking good care of my body like I should have. So being proactive, I think, is the most important thing that you can do before any of the cancer even develops.
Yeah. So like how this news was disclosed to you and your family?
How was it disclosed? So when I found the lump, the next week, I went to my primary care physician by myself. I didn't tell anybody. Nobody knew that I was at the doctor. And the primary care physician made an appointment for me to see or to go get my imaging done. So my first mammogram and ultrasound. That took a little bit of self-advocacy on my part, because they wanted to schedule it so advanced. Like 2 months in advance, or 2 months later, sorry. And I actually fought for that. I'm like, no, I have to be seen this week. I can't wait 2 months. And so my doctor made some calls, got me in, and I went to the mammogram appointment and ultrasound appointment by myself. I didn't want to scare anybody, which is common. We as family, we don't want to scare our families, but it is important to at least take somebody with you. Because the day of my mammogram and my ultrasound, I wasn't expecting to get any news. Usually they don't tell you anything. But because I had so much cancer activity, they kept sending different technicians to do the ultrasound. And then finally the head radiologist came in and he showed me the screen. He turned the screen over and he said, there's a tumor here, there's a tumor here, there's some cancer activity here, your lymph nodes are lit up. And we made an appointment for you to go see a breast surgeon, and she's waiting for you right now. And that's what scared me, because I thought, okay, well, if they made the appointment for me for today, that means I don't have time to spare. That means I'm probably dying. And I started crying. I was so scared. And I wish I would have had somebody there with me. Now, after I went to the breast surgeon, the following week I had my biopsy done. And then by Wednesday, I had my diagnosis. And I was at home when I got my diagnosis. I asked my breast surgeon to just call me. So I was at home. Before then, I had made a list of all the people I needed to call. And probably the hardest conversation I've ever had to have with my family, my loved ones, my friends, my colleagues. And, there are a couple of times where I had to hang up because I was too emotional. It was too hard. And then I knew that I was going to break people's hearts, telling them that I was sick and could die. Who wants to get that phone call? But that's how I broke the news to everybody. And the first person that I called was my brother, who lived about 45 miles away from me, and in LA. I live in Orange County, Southern California. But one thing that he did for me was very beautiful, is that he's at work, and I called him and I told him what was going on, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be fine. I'm scared, but it's gonna be fine." And he said, "Okay," and he hung up. Well, he showed up at my house with food and a funny movie and just his company. And he's like, "I know you're scared. This sucks. Let's hang out. Let's eat. Let's have a good time." So just having him show up to me was just a beautiful thing and exactly what I needed. I would have never asked him to leave his job to come to me and be in traffic for 2.5 hours just to get to my house. But he showed up anyway. And that was such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So how did you all face it?
We all face it. Initially, I jumped right into education. I needed to know exactly what I was fighting. I needed to know everything possible about the cancer and the type of cancer that I had. So I read this. There's a book called The Breast Cancer Survivor Manual. I read that book cover to cover. And from that book, I wrote lots and lots and lots of questions. I had 60 something questions, a lot of questions handwritten. And when I went to the doctor, I wanted to make sure that all my questions were answered. And my doctor was amazing. He was so great. He explained everything. I'm a visual learner, so he drew things out. He said I actually recorded the conversation. So I took a little recorder and I recorded the conversation so I could go back and listen to it again when I wasn't so panicked. And so I armed myself with knowledge. And that alleviated a lot of emotional distress related to the unknown, because your head can go in different directions when you don't know what to expect. Now my expectations were managed. I knew how my body was going to respond to the treatment. And then it was all of a sudden a mindset shift. My mind shifted from being afraid to being ready. But I prayed a lot. I am a Christian. I love the Lord. I pray and pray and pray. And I had a lot of people praying for me. And that also helped tremendously.
Yeah. Because at such times, if we do a lot of research, that will basically help us to know better what we are going through, obviously. And if we don't do a lot of research, then we will have to believe in what others are saying, because others have their own perspective. Someone will say something, others will say something. So we have to believe them. So it's better that we do a lot of research, take notes, analyze the things that is going within our body, and then accordingly act towards it.
Yeah, you can have an intelligent conversation about it. You can be an active participant in your own care if you know what you're dealing with, what you're up against. And so I know that there are a lot of people that don't want to know all the details, and they want to trust their doctor completely, which, in some cases, that's a very good coping strategy. And it's good to trust your doctors, but it's also good to trust and verify, trust and be knowledgeable. So, I'm one of those crazy people that has to watch videos from start to finish of a hysterectomy. So I know what a hysterectomy, what's going to happen to my body. I watched a mastectomy video from start to finish because I needed to see and know exactly what they were going to do to me. Not everybody wants to see that. I get it. But, as much information as you can handle, go after it and learn as much as you can about your cancer.
Yeah. So can you share your experience during the treatment time?
Yes. So chemotherapy was first, like I shared in the introduction. And, I didn't really, as much as I read about it, because I had seen my mother go through chemotherapy in the 1980s when chemo was so harsh on a human body, I was scared because I was picturing it from a child's perspective. It was very triggering for me. But I went in, and I remember my very first treatment. My chemotherapy nurse, Barbara, she recognized that I walked in with deer in headlights. I looked like I was scared. I had these big eyes, super scared. She said, "I want you to meet somebody." Okay. So here comes this beautiful young lady that walks out with her daughter, holding her daughter's hand. And her daughter had these Mickey Mouse ears on. And she said, I don't remember her name, but she said, "I want you to meet so-and-so. This is like her 4th or 5th chemo, or I forget. She's already gone through chemo several times. And she knows what to expect because she's gone through chemo. And yet she's still taking her daughter to Disneyland after today's chemo. So if she can take her daughter to Disneyland after chemo, then you can get through today's cancer treatment, okay?" And as soon as I met her, realized that this woman just had chemo and she's going to Disneyland with her daughter, I'm like, okay, I'm good. So just having that perspective and just meeting somebody and visually seeing somebody that is ahead of you, a couple steps ahead of you, a couple of chemo treatments ahead of you, gave me inspiration and hope that it changed everything for me. And then I felt more confident. So yes, day one was hard. And the way my body responded was very challenging because, and as many people have gone through chemo know, the effects of chemo accumulate the more further down the road you get with your treatment. So the first treatment's fine. There's a little bit more toxicity the second time, and even more toxicity on the third time, and so forth and so on. And your kidneys and your liver taxed. They're tired from processing the chemicals. What I didn't realize is how deficient I was in my nutrition. I didn't realize it. I knew I wasn't eating well. Things tasted funny. I didn't want to eat. I didn't have appetite. I had a lot of pain. And I was taking pain medication to curb the pain, but the pain medication disrupted my stomach. I had a lot of digestion issues from the pain medication. And it was just a very tough time. So by the time I got to my second to the last treatment, I was in so much pain and taking so much pain medication. I was bleeding when I was going to the bathroom. It was just a bad time. I knew that I needed to change something. And thank God somebody said, go see a homeopathic doctor. Go see somebody who can talk to you about your nutrition because something's wrong. Okay, I'll do whatever it takes. At this point, I was desperate, right? And when I went to this doctor, he looked at my blood work and looked at my pathology reports, all my labs. He looked at everything and he said, "I think that you're deficient in this, and you should take this. And he basically created this menu of things that I should be eating, how I should be supplementing, how much water I should be drinking, what are some of the things that complement the treatments that I was on. And then he said, "Now go take this information to your oncologist to make sure everything's fine. And then we'll get going." Okay. So then I had another plan, right? I had a nutrition plan, a hydration plan, all these things. And I went to my oncologist and he looked at it and he said, "Yes, you can do this. You can do this. You probably shouldn't do this, but you can do all these other things." And so between the two doctors, I changed my diet, the way I was hydrating, the way I was sleeping. And by the very last chemo, I felt loads better, so much better. And I didn't have to take pain medication in my last chemotherapy treatment. Then when I was done with chemo, then I bounced back really fast. So I had a lot more energy. My nails started growing out really fast. My hair grew out really fast. My eyelashes grew out really fast. And I felt better. And then when I went into radiation, when I had my surgery, then by hydrating, having good nutrition, I had the energy to start working out again. So I went back to the gym and I started doing little exercises, little hand grip exercises and the stretches and the crawling up the wall exercises and all the things that I needed to do because I wanted to get strong. And so I started working out. And the more I worked out, the more energy it gave me. even though I didn't start off as energetic, I was tired. I didn't really want to go as often, but I forced myself to go. But every time I went, I felt better. So I started working out a lot. And then throughout radiation, I did my the same protocol, the same vitamins, the same nutrition protocol, and I felt better. So long story short, I ate better and supplemented and did all the things right. And I was able to bounce back. And then that allowed me to stay healthy, continue to stay healthy. And, every time I went to get my scans, then I reached another milestone, and then the first year, and then the second year, and then the fifth year, 10th year, 15th year. So, all these things help me. And I will talk until I'm blue in the face on the importance of nutrition while you're going through treatment.
Because
Sorry,
very important. No, actually, it's very important the way you said and represented your answer, because it's very important that during cancer, we build up an immunity within our body, which will help us fight those bad cells, or which will help us fight the disease, because it's all within us. If we maintain a proper diet, if we maintain a proper hygiene, if we sleep properly, if we surround ourselves with positive people, positive hope, prayers, then that will ultimately help us in recovering faster.
Absolutely. And, there was somebody that mentioned when I was in bed going through chemo, when I was recovering from chemo on the toughest days, and I couldn't get out of bed. I had somebody tell me, well, just fight the cancer in your mind, right? Mm-hmm. Picture your body fighting those bad cells and your cancer dying. And, when you have your eyes closed, you can still tell when the light's on or when the sun's, going through the window. So like picture the cancer just going towards the light and just leaving your body. And I kept doing that. I kept visualizing it. And I truly believe that helped too.
Yeah, because having a positive mindset is very important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and I also listened to a lot of music. I needed to have levity and have a happy environment in my house. And so I'm a big music lover. I have to have music on all the time. And so music was very helpful for me. Walking outside, even just to go to the mailbox and back, so helpful just to get fresh air. I know it's hard when you're going through chemo and when you just had surgery, you just don't have the energy, but it is so important and it'll help you feel tremendously better.
Yeah. So from where did you get your support system along with the family?
Yeah, I had a very big social circle to begin with. I'm very blessed that I have a lot of friends and colleagues. But what I noticed with cancer is that my circle got really small. And I think that's okay. You don't have to have loads and loads of friends to feel supported, as long as there's one person that you can speak with who gets you, who will just be a listening ear and not try to solve your problems. Just listen and just be understanding. I think that's important. I did reach out to and go to some support groups at my cancer center. I didn't feel connected with a lot of the people in my support groups because of the age difference. There was a massive age gap. I was 31, so there have been people that were significantly older than me. And if I recall correctly, I think I went to just like general cancer support groups, not targeted breast cancer. I may have gone to breast cancer once or twice, but it was a broad group, broad population group, and everybody was way older. And so I couldn't bring up topics that were important to me. So I didn't feel any connections. However, there was a breast cancer gene support group meeting. And at that meeting, there was a gal that sat next to me, and she was about my age. And we had the same doctor, same type, almost the same kind of cancer. I was stage 3, she was stage 2. And we formed a friendship from this group outside of the group. And we just became instant friends and sisters. And we started going out and doing fun stuff together, and really became each other's support system. She's my heart sister now. She's like one of my best friends still 15 years later. But having her in my life who was also going through what I was going through or had gone through what I had gone through was a game changer, because she and I almost have our own language. She gets me. So and I get her. And I think finding somebody that is also a survivor or cancer warrior to be your support system is so important and can make such a huge difference, because you can talk to them about things that you typically can't talk to your family about or your close friends, because they understand, they've gone through it.
Yeah. So, like, what is the importance of self-examination and why?
Well, nobody's going to catch it sooner than you if you're doing the self-exams. Like, most people go to the doctor maybe once a year to get their physical. So what happens 11 months out of the year? It is so important for you to take care of yourself and just to be aware of how your body feels on a normal day. And when things start feeling differently, then addressing it right away. Like for me, I'll admit I have a hard time with my sleep still now. And to the point where feeling tired has become my normal, right? Which isn't a good thing. But I realized that there were some other issues that were coming from the fatigue. And so just recently I did a sleep study and uncovered that I'm dealing with sleep apnea. And there's another term, I can't remember it right now, shallow breathing that lowers my oxygen saturation. And so that's a huge problem. That can create lots of other cardiovascular problems, diabetes, all these other things. So, had I not been paying attention to my body, and even when somebody mentioned my breathing sounds funny when I sleep, I actually downloaded an app and recorded myself. I wanted to know what was going on with my body. And then now I have answers. Now I can address it. So it's really important to know your body, to be aware, self-aware, because only you can advocate for yourself. Only you can get on the phone and call your doctor. So yeah, it's probably the most important thing you can do.
Yes, definitely. And like, what do people actually need to expect when they get this cancer type?
So I have a saying that is like, a cancer diagnosis is like a stinking storm. It really is. So I want to acknowledge how hectic life gets, because I want to manage the expectation. A lot of people use the word journey, which is okay. I use it too. But journey to me sounds like a wonderful adventure and it's beautiful and peaceful. And it's like, no, it's not. It's a storm. Let's call it what it is. And you can very quickly get overwhelmed because you're going from specialist to specialist to specialist to scans to this, to that, to this appointment, that appointment. And it's so hard to keep track. It's hard to get overwhelmed. But there are so many cool tools that you can use now to keep track of everything. I write everything down. I'm a big note taker. I have note paper everywhere, but you can very easily take notes on your phone now. You can record conversations, doctor appointments on your phone now. You can keep track of your medical records, your lab results, your appointment summaries, your surgical notes, your pathology reports. All those things, everyone has access to this information. And if you don't, you should be asking for it and have it. So every appointment you go, I'm like, can I get the summary notes from the last appointment, please? And they will get it to you. So, but it does get a little hectic. And I think it's important to talk about that early on. The beautiful thing now about many cancer centers, not all of them, but most, and I don't know how it is in your country, but nowadays there are a lot of nurse navigators and social workers that can help manage your case file, your load, the person. So finding out if that resource is available is important, and ask for help if there's somebody at your cancer center that can help manage your case and help you keep on track. Now, there are organizations like yours, organizations like ours, that we can help create an action plan around that. I think there's something to survivorship care. So even when you're done with the initial treatment, it's also important to know when you're supposed to go for your vigilance, your aftercare, right? How often should you get your screenings done? How often should you get your labs drawn? Who's the one who's going to manage who's your medical quarterback who's managing your care and who's speaking with all these other specialists? So it sounds like a full-time job, and it can be. But again, no one can organize yourself better than you. So it's up to the patient to stay on top of it.
Yes, definitely. So like, what lifestyle changes have you made during after your treatment?
Lifestyle changes. So when I was first diagnosed, and I'm still a workaholic. I was a workaholic. I worked around the clock. I still work around the clock now. But when I was first diagnosed and was going through treatment, I did change the way I worked. And I changed my behavior in terms of like my patience level increased in some areas, but also my tolerance level dropped, meaning I was able to make decisions that were more beneficial for me. I paid more attention to myself. And even though back then I felt more selfish that I was paying more attention to me, if I didn't pay attention to me, who would? Like I had to pay attention to myself and make my needs a priority. And that for me was the biggest change, because I was everybody else's care provider, so that was one thing. Another thing that I changed was my ability to ask and receive help, because I'm so independent. I prided myself in not needing anybody, but guess what? When you're going through cancer, you need help. You need people, and it's okay to ask for help. And when people say they want to help, then give them the opportunity to help you. So that for me has also changed. I still have trouble. I'm an independent woman still, and so I do have trouble accepting help, but I'm a lot better. But also from my faith life, my spiritual life, my faith increased tremendously. When you're going through a health crisis, you can't help but lean on your faith, whatever that faith is for anybody. For me, it's like I needed to read the Bible more. I needed to learn more about scripture and find hope in the scriptures, and find hope and have a dialogue with the Lord just about life. And that has stuck through. So if anything, my faith increased and has increased over the years. So yeah, a lot of things have changed. But here's another thing that changes a lot, though, which is kind of out of your control somewhat, are relationships. Relationships change. And, unfortunately, there are a lot of divorces and breakups when you're dealing with health crisis, and a lot of it is very heartbreaking. But for me, I also realized that there are a lot of things that I was settling for that I don't have to settle for anymore. That life will be okay if I cut some people out and make some tough choices. And, it really helps you evaluate cancer. It helps you evaluate your life, and it serves as a wonderful filter. And you can learn a lot about yourself, and also a lot about life when you're dealing with a health crisis like cancer.
Yes, like you mentioned earlier, now, you had a big circle, but it ultimately came down after you got diagnosed. So it's very like casual. So because we will get to know that who are our true friends and who are the person who actually care for us, because it's very normal nowadays that we surround ourselves with people, but whenever we need their help, or we are in a tough situation, then we only get to know their true faces.
Exactly. And, I also lost my sister to cancer when I was a survivor. So after I was diagnosed, my sister was diagnosed and she passed away. And, when you deal with loss of a loved one and a different type of life crisis like grief, your circle also gets even smaller. So when I was on the other side of cancer, when I was getting healthy and was so in love with life, and I was wearing the pink shirts and doing the races and just fully embraced my life as a survivor, the circle grew again, right? Because now I was meeting all these survivors and things. But when I lost my sister, I purposefully made my circle smaller because I was isolating myself. And that happens a lot when you're sick, when you're going through cancer. Sometimes it isn't that your circle gets smaller because people don't care. There are a lot of people who love you and care about you, but sometimes you yourself put a wall up, right? And, people ask, how are you doing? Oh, I'm okay. I'm doing all right. You're not really vulnerable and sharing how you're truly feeling. Or when people ask, can I do something? Can I help you some way? And like, oh, I'll let you know. And then you don't. And then you don't hear from them. And then, it can be hurtful sometimes. It's like, no, like sometimes it is us that create that barrier and don't let people in. So sometimes that's a way to protect yourself, your energy. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Sometimes it's a good thing to conserve your energy and not expand yourself so much. But yeah, your circle does get smaller. Like I said, health crisis like cancer truly is a filter, and it's a filter in friendships and in life as well.
Yeah. So every crisis in life teaches you a particular lesson. So what life lessons has this cancer journey taught you?
The importance of letting go the things that you have absolutely no control of. That has actually saved me a lot of heartache and distress by being able to let go. Now, dichotomy, something that totally opposite of that is this ability to play an active role. Now, you can let go of some things, but you can also be very, very active in your own treatment plan. Even though you're not the doctor, you have the choice in making decisions on how you eat, who you interact with, where you spend your energy, how you conserve your energy, all these different things. That you're not a victim. I want to encourage people to not see themselves as a victim. That, yes, unfortunately, you're diagnosed with cancer. Stuff happens. Not everybody gets cancer. Some people, there are the high instances of cancer diagnosis. You happen to get diagnosed. Okay, it is what it is. Now, how do we move on? How do we tackle this? How do we fight it? And then how do we continue moving forward? Yeah, you don't have to let cancer define you either. Like, I do identify with my cancer a lot. I share my cancer story. It's how I started my nonprofit. And that's the purpose behind the nonprofit, is to really provide and support, but also improve quality of life similar to yours. So I lead a lot with my story, but, there are a lot of people that don't feel comfortable sharing their story, that they want to close the book on their cancer experience, and that's that. I think that's okay too.
Because it's their perspective, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, many people don't feel comfortable in sharing their story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, like, how is your life after cancer?
Well, I have to say that I feel very content in my little world, my little Yoli bubble. But it wasn't always that way. When I was on the other side of treatment and really embraced life as a survivor, I was over the moon excited and happy to be alive. Still am. But after losing my sister to cancer, I experienced survivor guilt and really was searching for my purpose in life. Like, why am I still alive then? It's not fair that she died and I'm still alive, but since I'm still alive, what can I do with my life? And so, having found and founded Cancer Kinship, which is my organization, has really allowed me to live my life purpose. And that gives me a tremendous amount of fulfillment in life. And even though it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my professional career is to run this nonprofit, to launch and run this nonprofit, especially during a pandemic, it's also the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. And I've learned so much. But I'm not done learning. And that also excites me. Surrounding myself with incredibly challenging, incredibly intelligent and passionate people like you and so many others who are doing great things despite their challenges. those are the people I want to surround myself with. And as far as my faith life goes, which really propels me to get up every morning and go, my faith life is strong. I'm hopeful. Do I have sad moments? Yes, all the time. I miss my sister. It hurts to, not have my mom around. I grieve the loss of my body parts, and, I have scars everywhere, and I've gained weight in areas that I wish I didn't. My body's not perfect, but I'm really happy. And I think everybody has the capacity to be happy despite any challenge that they may be facing and overcoming.
Yes. So, like, what was your first reaction when your reports were finally showing that now you're cancer free?
Oh my gosh. I'm very emotional. So when things are funny, I'll cry. When things are sad, I cry. And when things are, just exciting, I cry. So anytime I get any kind of great report, I always cry, which is why I wear like the eyeliner and makeup stuff that doesn't spread all over my face. But yeah, so I always cry. I'm really happy when I get my cancer-free reports. I still get nervous though. Here I am 15 years later, and I have to go, like, I don't have to get regular scans anymore unless I have symptoms of some sort. I do take care of my gynecologic health a lot more now, because I had a hysterectomy. How long ago? 6 years now? 6 years now. So I still see my gynecologic oncologist every 6 months, and get the tests done just to make sure I'm healthy. But I still get scan anxiety. Like, I get nervous, not as nervous as I used to get. So it's gotten a lot easier.
Gratitude seems to be the biggest strength to fight the situation. So what were you ever so grateful for that made you always calm down after thinking or revisiting that memory?
Oh my gosh. Gratitude is definitely high on the list of things that I attribute to having a good quality of life. I'm obviously grateful for the things that I have, and, just the stuff, right, that make life comfortable. But that never really enters my mind when I think about gratitude, especially when I'm in the thick of the challenging times. It's the people, the family, the loved ones, your friends, just the people that you fight for. Like, why people fight cancer so hard. That's what I'm most grateful for. Definitely grateful for being able to do this kind of work, finding a way to direct my energy and my thoughts and my challenges in a positive way. I think that I'm very grateful for that. What else? Obviously grateful for my God. My source of strength comes from God. So, every day the prayers are always, I lead with gratitude in my prayers, my prayer life. There's just so much to be grateful for. Grateful for the medication and the doctors that, dedicated their lives to help and heal people. And I truly believe that God put the right team in place to take care of me and to help me overcome my cancer and beat it. And I'll always be grateful to my entire care team as well.
Yeah. So what was the one pivotal turning point in your life?
In regards to cancer, or what do you mean?
In general.
Just in my journey? Pivotal point in my life. So I'd have to say there are a couple. When I think about the day that I was diagnosed, the day that I saw the cancer on the image, the mammogram and the ultrasound pictures, the ultrasound video screen, like, there's no turning back from that. Like, once you hear somebody say, I'm almost 100% certain you have cancer, and here are the tumors, it's as if the line was drawn on the sand, and there was my life before and now life after that day. So that day was such a game changer for me, that, like, the way I think, the things that I trusted and was so focused on things that I prioritized shifted. And a lot of the things that I put a lot of value into or had a lot of value for or gave a lot of my attention to shifted because all of a sudden none of that, some of it wasn't as important anymore. So that was the first time. And then for me, losing my sister was a game changer in a whole different way because I really had to face life after loss. You know, I had lost my mom, but when you're a child and you lose a parent, children are incredibly resilient and have incredible coping skills and can bounce back really fast. And a lot of that has to do with bottling up emotions and stuffing down emotions or not really processing because you're a child, you don't really know how to process those types of emotion and loss. But when I lost my sister, it was as if I was grieving my mom and my sister at the same time and grieving our family's pain to like all at once. And so for me, that rocked my world in a different way. And had I not sought after emotional healing, had I not gone to grief support and expressed my sadness in a healthy way, I know that there was a slippery slope. I could have gone into depression and isolation. I was already doing it. And I could have stayed there, but I didn't. I knew I couldn't stay there. I shouldn't stay there. And my family needed me. You know, I'm the one in my family that's like the glue, and I provide support and care for my brothers, my father. Like my family needed me, and I couldn't stay there. So, you know, making the decision to seek help was the pivotal point in my life. And seeking help then resulted in then leaning even more so in my faith. I started praying and hiking and asking, like, what could I do with my life? And I have this experience. How can I help people now? Like, what can I do? And then all of a sudden, the idea of starting this nonprofit came to my brain. And then like, okay, I'm pouring my heart and soul into the business plan and launching this organization. And I'm going to help cancer survivors by bringing in more cancer survivors. And how can we as a community help each other? And how can we continue to heal together? And so that was like my third pivotal time is when I decided to go after this nonprofit business planning process and just go for it. Lots of pivotal moments.
Yeah. So like, how do you feel more positive?
How do I feel more positive now? When I get to see the results of our work, the results of Cancer Kinship, my nonprofit's work, and how it helps people. You can see hope in people's eyes. You can see it. You can feel it. You can feel the shift of mindset and energy. I see it in people's eyes when they come to our organization really scared. And then they leave our organization feeling very hopeful. And then when they finish with treatment and or their needs are met in a significant way, then the first question out of their mouths is, how do I give back? How can I support? And then we bring them full circle. So that gives me a ton of hope. That makes me excited. And that also reinforces the fact that I'm on the right track in what I'm doing. And that's a wonderful feeling. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So like, how do you reward yourself whenever you achieve any goal?
How do I reward myself? Food. I like to cook. I cook all the time. Any kind of celebration always revolves around food and family. You know, so that from an external standpoint, that's how I celebrate. I always pray. My prayer life is so strong. So immediately it's like, oh my gosh, thank you, Lord. So that always comes into play. What else? Resting, I think, hiking. Those are like some of the things that I do. I do work a lot. I'll admit I'm a workaholic still, but I do reward myself with the time to just kind of sit in this happy moment and just be. I think that that gives me a lot of joy as well.
Yeah. What are the things that you appreciate or love about yourself?
I am pretty tenacious. I am very passionate. I recognize it in myself. And, I've been told that, I have an energy about me that, it's a good vibes. So I appreciate that about myself. But more importantly, I think that my ability to just bring my family together and my ability to love. I think that's probably the most important thing that I could bring to a relationship or to a friendship, to my circle, is my ability to love.
So, like, what message you would like to give to other cancer survivors and caregivers?
Well, there's so many messages. The first message, I guess, or the first thing that I want to encourage the cancer community is to really tap into your ability to be an active participant in your healing. That there's so much control that you can regain, that control isn't lost, that your health and your ability to live and thrive isn't lost when you get a diagnosis. Sometimes it could be the best thing that has ever happened to you. For me, it was. It really allowed me to examine what's important, what's not, really know my body, surround myself with my loved ones, build relationships, and really nurture the relationships that I have. And even though I loved my family and everyone before, it's so much different now because I went through cancer. So it's not the worst thing that could happen to you. Now, for those who are dealing with advanced stage cancers, or, I'll call it like it is, even if you're going to pass away soon, you still have the ability to be brave until your last breath. You still have the ability to pray and tap into your spiritual life until your last breath. And you still have the ability to love on your loved ones, pray for your nursing staff, and just be thankful in your own space, in your own skin, and know that you matter until your last breath. And then even when you take that last breath, just know that you'll still be remembered by stories and by those who love you. So I don't like to say that people lose their battles to cancer, because even in my mom's case and my sister who died from cancer, like, they didn't lose. They weren't able to kill the cancer, keep it away, but they didn't lose in life because they were loved and they loved. So, yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think are the stigmas attached to cancer and the importance of awareness for it?
Well, it's kind of, you can't control what other people are going to think, right? So, the stigma really is closely tied to what people think about a diagnosis or having gone through cancer. I think the most important thing that you can do to break stigma, though, is to tell your story. Be vulnerable, bring down your walls, tell your story as truthfully as possible, because nobody can challenge that, right? Nobody can challenge your story. Your story is your story, and there's value to it, and there's value to the ability to tell it, So by telling stories, I think it helps raise awareness to what truly does happen when you go through cancer. For a cancer patient, the battle isn't over. I'm 15 years out. I still get scared. Any little symptom, any little pain, any little lump and bump, I'm still scared. I immediately go to the 6-year-old Yoli who was with her mom when she's going through chemo. Like, it's scary. But, don't allow the fear to set in, or if anything, let that fear drive you to be proactive about your health, so being vigilant in the aftercare is really important too.
Yeah. So, like, if you have to sum up your journey in one sentence, then what would that be?
Oh my gosh, these are such hard questions. I'm going to go back to my tagline for Cancer Kinship, my nonprofit. I always say, braving the storm together. And what I mean by that is that there's a healing power in human connections. And when you can bring a community together that has a rich lived experience, even if that experience is cancer, that there's strength in that. And bravery can be inspired by bringing a cancer community together.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's not one sentence.
It's okay. So, ZenOnco.io works towards the betterment of cancer patients, like through integrated oncology. So what are your thoughts on the same?
I think it's pretty brilliant. I shared with you in a private conversation before we recorded this conversation is that, being able to provide a wide array of services, resources, information, support, and care through an integrated whole person approach is so important. You have this graphic on your website that's like a wheel, and it has all the pieces. It starts with the medicine, the treatments on the top, and it kind of goes through the cycle. And every single item that you identified in that cycle, in that circle, really describes the whole person and how every area of a person can be addressed. And there's so much empowerment that can happen, and a lot of healing can happen if you truly look at the whole person. So by being able to offer almost like a one-stop shop, like you do in your app and on the website, is pretty incredible. And all of it contributes to either getting rid of the cancer, fighting the cancer, keeping it away, or improving the quality of life and making the best with the time that you have. And that, I think, is as important as longevity. Quality is as important as longevity. Maybe even more important, actually.
Yes. So, your story is really inspiring. And I hope this session really motivates people out there who are traveling or who have been traveled to this journey. So it was lovely having you here today on this session with us, Yoli. So
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your valuable time.
Well, I appreciate everything that you're doing, and I look forward to learning more as your services expand and grow and more community members join. I'm so excited to be a part of it. And if there's anything that we can do from a cancer kinship partnership perspective, please let me know. And if anybody listening or watching would like to learn more about our organization, feel free to visit our website at cancerkinship.org.
Yes.